Hello, you. Welcome back to Blighty Day Fiancé, your 8th, ninth, or 10th favorite reality TV recap podcast. My name is Michelle, here in sunny Los Angeles. Not sunny at the moment because it's nighttime. And with me today are Jack.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to be back, as always.
And Diana.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with my hubby Jack and my sister Nicole.
It's important at this juncture to disclose to the audience that we have all partaken of a small amount of herbal remedies tonight, and it may affect our performance. But
In
it's
the
not
words,
gonna.
in the words of one of my favorite podcaster, y'all, I think my gummy's about to kick in.
I mean, we're just celebrating Michelle being here in Southern California where she can do these sorts of things again.
I know there's so many great experiences. Having to pay for healthcare, people not knowing how to stand in line for anything, like
I feel. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
an ambient volume that is like unbearably loud to me, that is standard conversational volume for everyone.
I was going to say that's pretty salty coming from someone who just, I don't know, spent a couple of hours in a Target for the first time in a decade.
And then had to take a nap.
That's true. That is true. All right, what are we here for? We are here for season 6, episode 1 of 90 Day the Other Way.
Yes.
This episode is entitled My Best Friend's Meddling, which means I think all of these punny titles are going to be based on romantic comedies.
Yes, I'm sure next week we'll get a final pestulation or something like that. That was the gummy talking.
I'm just so excited. I love when there's a new season and we get new people. It's so refreshing after watching some of the same ones, especially over and over again.
It is. Yeah, I'll put it this way. I don't think Love in Paradise in any way outstayed its, or, left at an inopportune time. I think that was the right amount of episodes, and we didn't necessarily need any more of that than we got. So this is very exciting. We're going to kick things off, not with housekeeping, because I'm going to do that at the end today, because you guys are probably already tearing your hair out over how disorganized and giggly and fucking stupid we are today. So the first couple is James, age 33, from New Gloucester, Maine, and Meitalia, also known as Tata, age 27, from Indonesia.
Oh,
First impressions?
Yeah. Sorry, I had to groan at first because, look, I'm going to say something about this gentleman. That's really your line, but I feel like it's important to share just to give everyone a really attractive mental picture to start out with. So, James, who kind of he's sort of like that Seinfeld episode with the lighting, where he kind of looks different in every lighting. He looks like a different.
Toothpaste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. But the most egregious thing about him would be what you called his butter teeth, and I thought you meant like everything's all right, but his teeth, you know. But then I realized with your further description that you said no, 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 his teeth are yellow and soft like butter. And I gotta tell you, Michelle, that's really been like that's like an uncomfortable earwig that's been with me all day. I saw butter earlier. I didn't eat it because I looked like teeth. So No, yogurt looks like all like his like liquefied teeth. It's terrible. I want to say that James lives in a real interesting part of Maine. It's really in the middle of nowhere. And he has an interesting backstory, which I just want to mention, which is that his job is elevator repairman, which I'm not sure I've ever heard. Any thoughts on that? Or the teeth?
On why you've not heard, I mean, presumably you've grown up around elevators your whole life, and you must have known on some level there's somebody who installs them and takes them out
Well,
and fixes them when they're
I
broken.
didn't mean I didn't know that elevator repairman existed. I just didn't think about it being its own category of repair, like it needed a specialist, but obviously it does.
I just think that James, I can't even. I'm sorry. I was thinking about like my own things with elevators as a child because like I just wanted to be an elevator operator, but I didn't realize that the elevator repairman, that was when I was 5, like what I really wanted to be when I grew up. And that's not a joke or a lie. I wanted to like run the elevator. It was my favorite job growing up as a kid in New York. But I think James, I didn't realize like how much nepotism there is, in the elevator repair business. Like I was just really shocked that that's the only way to really get in, is through family business.
Are you saying you did not?
I was
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
I was the most impressed that there is a song about elevator repair on what I assume is Pond 5, which is basically a catalog of royalty-free music that we use. So, not clowning on Pond 5. I just can't believe they went for, like, so many of these songs talk the plot. There's always a song that's like, I'm alone in the kitchen and I'm thinking about whether I should have left the extra car key at her apartment. They're ultra specific, but it's never been so specific that there's an actual song about repairing an elevator.
Now, I don't know if you wrote down the lyrics, but like loosely, the lyrics on this Pond 5 classic were basically like, I've got one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. My dad lost his fingers and had them sewn back on and continued his shift all night long. I'm an elevator repairman. That was basically like what's going on in that song. Now, I merged some of James's storytelling about his past into that one,
Sure.
but you get the idea.
So these two. Sorry, go ahead, Diana.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so after we see him in the elevator repair biz, we see him doing his side hustle, his hobby, which I believe is mining for stones and gems in his backyard with his dog and his fiance.
Sure looks like it. So these two met on social media. Tata is a jealousy person who describes herself as very emotional and cries a lot.
And we see that in maybe 12 seconds of her being on screen.
Yeah. We'll get more into that later, but her crying made me so uncomfortable. I mean, we were all watching it together. You guys saw me. I had a visceral reaction. It's like somebody chewing tinfoil.
Did you find? Did you find that as upsetting as her saying that in her relationship status, she likes to call her monogamous, serious relationship with James as, quote, "You stuck with me."
I think that's all marriage, isn't it?
Diana?
I mean, that's what you say in your vows, I believe.
You stuck with me. That's what we both said. Then we crushed a glass with our feet, and then it was all set.
The rabbi at my wedding asked me how many flowers were in my bouquet. And I was like, oh, I don't know, like 12. It wasn't like a big giant thing, but he said in Judaism, there's like an old wives' tale that the number of flowers in your bouquet is how many children you're going to have. And I was like, you do know I'm like 36, right? I mean, that's not happening.
A little octomom, maybe.
Oh God, no, no.
So now,
Um,
coming off of that little line there, tell me what they spoke about next. I have it here, but I want to hear it in your words.
what they spoke about next?
Their topic here, their excuse me, their setup here. They've been there 2 years and all of that.
Right. So they have an agreement that after getting married, that they would spend 2 years in Maine, just to see how it works. I think totally reasonable. Um, but she has been unwell the whole time. And this is something that I need to get ahead of before we just talk about it for 8 hours. I don't know if we have any medical bays listening, but that looked like a lump on her thyroid gland, possibly, to me. Like, is she really actually getting the runaround from doctors, or is she being offered treatment that she's not comfortable with or that they can't afford?
What was interesting, because you noted that you felt like she might be kind of partial to Eastern medicine and that, maybe she's looking for that to not treat it or she's avoiding some treatment here just because she's, has more trust and faith in the Eastern medicine from her home country, Indonesia.
Yeah, because I asked you too when I was watching. I was like, what? Like, she went to 3 different doctors. There's a thing on her neck you can see and she can feel. Like, wouldn't somebody have figured out something by now? And so that's when you were like, no, she doesn't.
It just, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So we meet later. Sorry, hopefully none of you can hear the sirens, but there have been like regular sirens going for the past 5
Now,
minutes or so.
Michelle,
So
just to let you know, that's because it's July 2nd here in Los Angeles, otherwise known as Let's Test the Fireworks in Every Single Backyard O'Clock. So, apologies to everyone. A little early U.S.
oh,
independence, and Southern California
probably our last.
just does it extra. You know how it is. So, forgive the sirens. I think we'll be okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
I think this is going to be the first 4th of July that I've spent in the US since like 2008.
Wow. Dun dun dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun
Yeah, but like
dun.
I said, it's
The
it's
last one?
appropriate. It's probably the last one. So, yeah.
Enjoy it. Let's live it up.
So they go to the record store and they're looking to make a little extra money because they have to stagger their flights. Unfortunately, Tata's going to go first, and then James is going to go um, later. He has not informed his family, who rely on him to help keep their business
You
going.
mean the
How
family
do you?
business?
Yes. How do you both feel about that? Do you think it's reasonable that he's hiding this from them, or should he have given more lead time?
I mean, look, every family's different. Like, I don't know what the dynamics are. I don't think we meet them at all. So I have no, like, it's hard to contextualize that because of it, but because, some parents can be really difficult. I don't know. It seems like he probably has like a nice family and it's really just out of his guilt, that he doesn't want to kind of bring it up. But that's also kind of selfish, I think.
Yeah, I mean, very, very avoidant. But this whole thing, I think he's avoidant to the extreme because there's other stuff that comes up later. I don't want to overshadow the record store guy who, now, I don't know how many of our listeners have been through this themselves, but something that I stopped doing, I will give my clothes to charity shops, as we call them in England, or like I'll donate, but I don't take anything to like clothing exchanges anymore because all anybody does is like hold it up like it's the rag that you just clean the bathroom floor with, and they're like, "Ew. Oh my God, Anthropology makes this size? Ugh."
It's just not worth
So
it. It's just not worth it at all.
it isn't, but it's a really, when you're getting rid of stuff that's important to you, it can get really emotional and really sad, and it's often marking, the beginning of a new phase of your life or the end of one. And that am basically a hoarder of certain types of objects because I'm just not ready for them to be anywhere else yet.
I think
Um,
James has multiple collections in boxes. I think most of them are, like rocks and minerals that he's finding in the background. This particular box of hobbies that we see today is a box of roughly, I don't know, about 300 records. And we're wondering if there are any gems in there. We have a guy who looks uncomfortably close to Mark Maron. I got heavy Mark Maron vibes from the record store owner in New Gloucester, Maine. Um, so, Michelle, I was really saddened by this scene, and I was wondering if you could take us through, because there's a quote from Mark Maron, the record store owner, that really, I think, kind of sums up like this relationship before we get going.
so there are more sensitive ways of telling people that, again, prized possession that they're having trouble parting with are not appropriate for sale. But this record store guy said that this was, quote, music no one wants to listen to at all.
Now, that whole quote, because, like, as you said, there's levels of sensitivity, and you could have, I personally think, would it have hurt the guy on TV to give him $50 or something and be like, hey, man, like, this is all I can do? But Diana, you had a good point. What did you say when I said that to you yesterday? Do you recall?
No, I have no idea what I said.
What you said was the guy doesn't want that box of shit clogging up his shop.
I mean, it's true. What's he going to do with it if he can't sell it? If it's worth nothing, it's just a box of garbage.
It
And
calls
go ahead.
it calls to mind a story that I'm not going to tell because it involves mutual friends of ours throwing something out in what we all agreed was a really healthy way of dealing with this unwanted item. That's all I'm going to say.
But also, can we just go back to before before the record store guy devastated them with his words about how they had a box of garbage for him? They were having this private conversation, I mean, in the middle of the record store with cameras, but this private conversation where she was, as we've seen a few times now, sobbing and crying about him not wanting to, I think, talk to his family.
Oh,
You
I
remember that?
completely forgot about that. I think the next one that I must have dissociated during these
You
scenes.
both you
I'm
both
serious.
dissociated during this. I don't know quite what was happening, but we're going to get to her friend in a second, which is where I'm not sure you were with us anymore for a little while. And we're going to get to that in a second. But I think that I just wanted to say Tata looks very young. And it just dawned on me the word I was trying to come up with yesterday. You had suggested maybe it could be a thyroid issue, which is a good point. I'm wondering if it's a pituitary issue in her neck like that because she looks very, very, very young and she is listed at 27 years old. And she makes me really, really uncomfortable in a lot of ways.
Same.
She has a, let's say, unsafe quality about her.
Yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it, what it is yet. But she does have a very young affect and a very emotional one, like very emotional. And
Yeah.
it just feels unstable.
And if I
Yeah,
can, sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
she's definitely operating in a very fearful place all the time, which makes me wonder if he does have a nice family or not, or whether they thought it was, whether, they were happy with them getting married. I just don't, I I have never met anyone who is that constantly on the edge emotionally outside of a mental hospital. And that's not, I'm not clowning on her.
No, of
I'm just
course.
saying, like, that's the typical environments where people are like bereaved or really going through depression or something traumatic or anxiety, whatever it is. Like, I have been around people who can't stop crying all day, but this is just, God, she's on a knife's edge all the time.
And he seems very protective of her. And we're gonna, I guess, see, like, is it too protective? Is it, are they in there that codependent kind of category, or is it does he have reason to really need to protect her? Like, we have to kind of see, but that definitely seems to be a big dynamic that's playing out in their relationship, of him trying to protect her and her getting over emotional, and this kind of back and forth.
Yes, and trigger warning for animal stuff. They do have a I'm going jumping slightly out
Yep.
of sequence for a minute, but they do have a conversation about their dog Jojo, and James goes into some really upsetting insinuations about, why Jojo can't travel at that time, that it's not a safe place for dogs. And um Tata goes into this type of, what is it? What's
Oh, I
wrong?
just wanted to say, uh, I have no idea when they filmed this, but his part of his reasoning of worry was that if the dog shows any signs of COVID, that they will euthanize the dog in Indonesia. So I'm guessing, they bank these for a while. This is probably like 22 or 23 at the most recent, just as a note.
Who knows?
But that
Um,
was the upsetting part, But they do, just to be clear, they do make the decision to leave the dog for the dog's safety, so the dog will be okay, presumably.
yes. But what I was saying is Tata goes into this very primal kind of guttural sound that like toddlers make when they're in pain. And if you've heard it, you've heard it. It's almost like I swear it's a different like sound
Mm.
frequency than other types of crying.
It's extremely
Because
guttural. Like, from the
yes,
inside of your soul, you can feel it, and it hurts. Like, I can feel it now just talking about it.
yeah, full body heaving sobs. Which makes her choice of friend really interesting because Adele drops some pretty heavy news during a time when so Adele is experiencing telling her supposedly best friend something really deeply upsetting, and also finding out that her friend is like flying to Indonesia tomorrow with, having had zero advance notice. And she's very relaxed, I think, is a polite way I can put it. But she's like, oh, so you're okay, leaving forever. Yeah. Okay, great.
The ease with which
Oh,
she spoke was unnerving, because it was sort of like, and I'm going to let you tell what they actually speak about here, but the severity of things is sort of like, hey, so, I was talking to James, and you don't have a house anymore. Anyway, um, you looking forward to your flight? So, yeah.
yeah, she was super chill when she informed her. And look, I'm sure that Tata is absolutely the kind of person who will ask clarifying questions when she's not sure rather than jumping immediately to the worst case scenario and assuming that the entire world is going to end. I say this because she hasn't noticed that her friend has this. Now, look, friend might be Adele, might be ND. She might not show up in the same way on camera as she does in person, but this was like a very disturbing lack of any display of compassion or empathy or understanding here. When she tells her that she was talking to James the other night and he said that he was not excited about having kids.
Oh, well, I think, I'm just going to check in with him and talk to him about it. It sounds sort of odd and, that doesn't seem like something. So I'm going to check in with my husband about it. Right? Wasn't that how she reacted? No?
Yeah, that was exactly what her response was. It was really reasoned and measured and calm. It was not at all like bursting into tears and weeping uncontrollably over something that hasn't happened.
Now, this speaks more to their relationship a little bit and maybe her psyche, but she takes this seemingly as gospel from Adele that this is factual, it's 100%, and obviously we're beating around the bush here. She loses her shit completely, and I don't know if we get back to that guttural place we did with the dog issue, but it's a frenetic upset, let's call it. And I was just wondering, and I don't know if we talked about this when we were watching it because everyone was dissociated and couldn't speak, but what do you make of this? That, like, do you think that they've had this conversation and she's forgotten it? Does James seem like the type who's stringing her along in any way? What was your read on this, Michelle?
I think that he is avoidant in the extreme and she's insecure in the extreme, and those two traits can sometimes, I know you two know nothing about that, but those two attachment styles can sometimes leave something to be desired when it comes to conflict resolution. So I think that he's thinking, okay, she is extremely fragile, both physically and psychologically. The thought of throwing a pregnancy into that is maybe not what we need when we're also moving to the other side of the world.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
where I was.
It's not like rational at all. And I think I agree with you 100% that he's trying to kind of make sure that they can have some stability first. And like, it's not a rush. They're not like, they're young, like they got to get stuff together. And he seems like pretty responsible in that way, I think.
I think so too. I think he's one of the most well-meaning and um kind of does things in good faith kind of guy who's ever been on the show. It doesn't change the fact that he needs to work on his communication skills and that there can't be these kind of, it's not a record store conversation to talk about terrible things that could happen to your dog. That's not where you talk about that. You talk about that like maybe at like 5 a.m. when you're coming home from a long night out and you're at the bus shelter because you realize like you can't get an Uber where you are because why did you go to this party in the first place? And then, you start to spiral and think about like what are you really doing with your life? You're like buying things for this apartment that is temporary, and you're just, what is the meaning of life, right? That it might come up in that sort of context, but not daytime at the record or at the charity shop.
I'd like to just be clear to the audience, no one here is having an existential crisis of any sorts.
No,
I'm
not talking about
Do you have anything else to say about these two, or can we move on to a couple of all-stars here?
No, let's move on to a couple who will never have an existential crisis of
Ah,
any
ah, ah,
kind
ah.
because there are insufficient brain cells between them to uh, merit one of those.
Merit one of those.
Can you count how
Merit,
many brain cells? Like, can you count specifically how
yeah,
many?
If the brain cells were rice on a plate, would you be able to separate the number of brain cells?
that I don't have that kind of what we call useful autism. Like I can't count cards or I don't have like special talents. I just have the kind that, is basically cosseted her whole life and can't cope with reality. So that's the kind of autism I have.
Hence your
Um,
fixation with reality television.
makes me good at noticing things, I guess, noticing minor details. So let's talk about the unsexiest sex, uh, phone sex, video sex, whatever you want to call it, setup I have ever seen in my life.
Hold on. Let me just hold on 1 second, please. You've been so naughty. Stop looking that way. Look at me.
Is that good? Did I do good, Sarper? Okay. I just want to set this up. I'm not speaking about Shekinah's looks in general. We'll get into some of that, I'm sure, with some of the people she's hanging out with here in LA. This is the most unflattering hairstyle that could possibly be on her.
It's she looks very severe to begin with, and that's the like black wig and the huge overpowering glasses. It's too much. And these two are too much. We get a recap of their first season basically.
You wrote
They
boring
talk about
recap in your notes.
I did because there's nothing. I have such a weird relationship with this couple where there are times when they're the only ones that I want to watch, and there are other times when I'm like, this is so fucking triggering, and the way he talks about her is so disgusting, and it's not a language barrier thing, and I can't relate at all in the slightest to having the sort of sexual fetish of enjoying somebody, like deciding how much you're going to weigh or what you're going to look like, or I guess like being a doll.
Can I ask you
I don't
something?
know what that.
Because we've
Yeah.
talked about some of this stuff. Like on our last episode with cousin Dan, we were talking a little bit about what I forgot what they called it, but it was some sort of kink for powerful men, where you give your financial information over to somebody.
Oh, fin doming. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's what it was. Is this a version of that in reverse at all, with Shekinah looking for Sarper or enjoying Sarper controlling her to this degree?
Yeah, I think she does enjoy being controlled. I think that there's some stuff, I really and truly don't want to repeat it because I don't know that this information came out about her with her consent or not, or
Right.
whether it was another friend or family member. But for those of you who don't know, Shekinah has some, to say the very least, family trauma in her past that makes me see things in a very different way. And so I can't help but I try not to go too hard on her because I just don't understand how she wakes up in the morning and breathes and has raised a child, and the plastic surgery and the image obsession. Like, I sort of feel like that's the minimum you can get away with after having the kind of childhood that she did. So like if this is her pathology, whether it's body dysmorphia or needing to give all her power to a man, that's fine, I guess. I mean, this, to be absolutely fair, like this man is a stupid idiot whose muscles are like stapled on, and I don't think he's capable of causing any damage.
I
He's
Yeah, go ahead.
so stupid.
Yeah,
He's so
I
dumb.
was
He's
going.
the
Yeah,
dumbest person to be on the show. Sorry, I'm done now.
Do you think that is part of it for her though? Like that is, right? Like she feels safe probably in that kind of a sense because she knows that intellectually can way outsmart him. So it's kind of like she just likes to put the control into the hands of this like dumb idiot because she knows that it's like kind of
I agree with all of that. I just want to say, within his stupidity, I don't find anything inherently evil about Sarper, just to your point of like, she's putting him in control, so to speak, but I don't feel like he's going to do anything horrible to her. But of course, we're going to get to some stuff that comes up in this season that looks like maybe he's not being great, but I just mean that I don't think he's going to use his power for evil purposes. That's just my early read. I'm sure that might get blown apart, but like you said, he's a fucking idiot. So I'm not sure that he really has. He's not a criminal mastermind. Let's put it that way.
No, and like he's not. I think that what we are seeing is exactly what he's like in real life, and I don't think any of the shallowness or the lack of curiosity about the world is exaggerated in any way. I believe that he could have OCD or some other type of compulsion, uh, because we know that he likes to be in control, which, now, I said this last year and I'll say it again. I don't believe for a second that he has slept with more than, the most I'd give him would be 200, and I think that's generous. He's not slept with 2,500
But I
women.
have
It just
sex
didn't.
with 4.8 women a day for years. Ah, 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 ah.
And I keep in notebook, look, I put X for every woman. Like, fuck off. First of all, men who do that write names, and identifiers, because it's like otherwise there's no point. There's got to be there's got to be some trophy element. Otherwise, why are you recording it?
Because if you're a member of Project Sarper, you don't have a name. Your name is X.
Oh, okay.
It's a Fight Club
Fine.
reference.
he doesn't like to read or write. He likes to count. So it's X's because he
That's
can count
true.
them.
That is such a good point. And also, obviously, women are inconsequential to him in the broader
Oh,
sense, outside of what.
he did make one distinction, which is, and I was curious about this, just in the number category, the body count.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a distinction that you actually have to come with the woman in order for it to count as sex. And if you just put your penis inside of a woman but you don't finish, it only counts as a half. So, at least, let me say, at least there's some sort of rules to Sarper's rule book of counting women.
I missed that, and I'm so glad that I was distracted by your constant chittering and that line just passed me by.
It did seem to go past you. I was like, really? You didn't like that part about the what counts as sex?
You talked about that for a really long time too.
I did. That means you tuned me out for a real long time. So kudos to you, Michelle.
It's cadoos.
Kudos to you, Michelle. Use take two. Moving along
Another
here.
lie.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, you have something there.
Another brazen lie in this episode is that the reason he's not doing well financially is because Shekinah made him lose all his female clients. He was doing the stuff that he was doing, okay? And we all have theories about exactly what stuff he was doing apart from the stripping. He's not making, promise you, he's not making enough to support both of them as a personal trainer. That's bullshit. What I think really happened is that they overestimated their popularity and they thought, oh, great, we're going to get all these amazing influencer deals, and we're going to be like all the other cast members who are really well liked and who are everybody's favorites, and we're going to make a ton of money on Cameo. And yeah, it's funny what happens when you when your most notable quote from season 1 is she act like a whore. What? I'm sorry, I meant a beach. Or whatever it was. She act like a slut. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I meant beach.
I meant dirty whore. Is this better? Yes?
Yes, exactly. And as he says 4 times,
1, 2.
that bitch factor is getting higher every day.
Times 4. It was every day, every day, every day, every
Every
day.
day, every day.
Now, so I'm going to take a stab here and say that you're not super surprised that they were broken turkey, and Shekinah, who can't perform her duties as an esthetician in Turkey, ends up back in Los Angeles, and that is why we quickly learn they are doing their phone sex from thousands of miles away.
I was surprised that she isn't qualified because presumably there's some kind of like global
International
certification.
body.
I don't know, maybe not.
I
But like
agree.
Turkey is, and we've talked about this before, Turkey is the favorite destination of Brits and Europeans to get, let's say, elective cosmetic procedures done because it's a lot cheaper and the aftercare is really good. And you too can look like Darcy and Stacey.
Belgium.
And Shekinah's
Gotta look snatched.
friends who she meets at the dog groomer who are like, there were some fantastic tweets about them, and they were all comparing them to like characters on SNL.
Oh, I saw.
Like whenever there's
Yeah.
like there's one with Will Ferrell and I think Cecily Strong where they say we went for the cheapest version of the most expensive procedure. And it is just this complete like, yeah, it doesn't look good. And I'm talking about the work done with these friends at the dog groomer in North Hollywood.
It was hard to focus on anything else but staring at their faces. Like I could barely hear anything happening because especially him, I just couldn't stop.
Yeah, hold on a second. The female friend is looks like a lot of women here in Los Angeles, okay? I'd like to just know, maybe you two can wax poetic for a second. The gentleman in this scene, can you tell me, because I can't really quite figure out, what do his lips look like? Like, what are they made out of?
They are made out of, this candy definitely doesn't exist anymore, but they're made out of Good and Plenty.
They still exist?
We eat Good and
Good
Plenty's
and
all the
Plenty?
time.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So are you?
Licorice candy?
Yeah, licorice candy. We'll get you some at 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
I got it right now. But let me ask you something. Are they just the pink, or did he take like a bunch of the pink and white and mash them together and make lips out of Good and Plenty?
No, his lips are the pink ones and his teeth are the white ones.
What
But
about
this is,
go ahead.
this is, here's a combination that I think doesn't work well. And in this neighborhood, I've been really pleasantly surprised. I thought people were going to look very strange like they do on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I thought I was going to see a bunch of like, you know, I don't know, just a lot of uncanny valley. That's what I was expecting.
For the record,
But
before you go into it, Michelle is mostly frequenting the Los Feliz Silver Lake area, which what did you say you felt the east side here was made up of? Do you recall what you said?
Probably something really
No, it
offensive that I
wasn't.
don't want
No, it
repeated.
absolutely. I wouldn't set you up like that. Come on. It was funny. You said you feel really comfortable on the east side of town because you found out very quickly that it's a bunch of pale East Coast freaks like us.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The
And
non-beach
speaking of
people.
pale, yes, exactly. There's a big, and you'll see this a lot in places like Dallas and Houston also. It's challenging to live in a sunny climate and spend most of your time in the sun and while maintaining good skin, right? And so the bad work that's done in LA, I think, is primarily, these procedures were developed for wealthier women of certain social classes who tend to take very good care of their skin
Spend a
before they
lot
have
of money on it.
spend a lot of money. Yeah, but you naturally have like a base that's smooth, but sun damaged skin moves in a different way. There's a lot more lines, there's a lot more wrinkles, it's drier. And these two have these dry the tan is fake, but you can tell that it's like desert skin,
Like
that it's
leathery,
just yeah. So when you
like
when
Tommy
you
Lee
put
Jones.
maybe not that leathery, but it's just, do you know what I mean? Like that crepey, dry texture is not going to look good with way too many fillers and way too much Botox.
Yeah, you could
It's
see
not a good look.
a lot of like the lumps. It wasn't like, it's not like even when the skin is like that with like no collagen and like being drained from the sun. It doesn't look right.
He looked
No,
like.
he looked.
Sorry, this is for our video people here, Michelle. He kind of looked like his lips were just kind of like.
No, see, your lips are too natural. Like I don't think you could even. Yeah, no, you did it. You got it finally. Yeah.
Sign up for the video if you want to see what that looks like. Although maybe cousin Dan will cut that for a post.
Not to mention
I
the
think that would be
bronzer he was using. Like
oh
his
god.
wife's bronzer, but it was rough.
It wasn't blended
They were
very well.
definitely, it was orange. It was like bright pale orange too. This was just not good. Anyway, Shekinah tells her friends while her golden labradoodle Adonis is being groomed, that Shekinah and Sarper agreed to apply for the K1 visa, but she's going to live with him in the meantime because she has a really hard time trusting that. Well, first of all, we have to say she came back to LA to be with her dog 20 minutes later and her daughter. Now, that's the ranking in my home. I definitely put my dogs before anyone. But I was surprised that was the focus, was not wanting to be away from her dog. So she's going there. She's going to Turkey in the meantime because she can't really trust him because he's probably been unfaithful.
And now she did have a line about if she asks Sarper too many questions, he breaks up with her, and I'm not sure what the timeline is, but he then begs to get back together with her, which I don't know that we've heard that before.
No, you know what it is? It's that And I wish I could say that I ever grew out of this phase, but I haven't and I didn't. And if I end up in another relationship, I'm probably also going to be this way. There's a stage that like young people and teenagers go through where they have to learn that every fight doesn't automatically lead to a breakup. And Sarper, who has never been in a relationship, doesn't really know that. So I think it's more like in his head, it's like, I feel bad. Can't feel bad anymore. Have to break up now. So feel good with different vagina.
Feeling bad, no good for Sarper muscle.
Yes, exactly.
Now, you walked out of the room for this because, I don't know, I think you just didn't feel like seeing this part, but I just wanted to, we do see a little montage of Sarper at home, and we see him with his cousin, who I have to say looks a lot like Shekinah,
Yes, I
naturally.
said that. I
Yes.
was watching this
But
part.
like an all natural kind of version.
What you walked out on, I think, was right after that. Yeah, I think you were like, okay, he's with his cousin. I don't care. And you walked out for a second. What you missed was was sort of like a mix between like Kindergarten Cop, Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Pacifier, which was that The Rock or Vin Diesel? I can't recall. But kind of like any of those big dudes, doing something where they're playing with little kids. We see Sarper playing with his cousin's daughter. And he seems like a good, quasi uncle, but it was really just kind of embarrassing that he's doing like little pirouettes and stuff like that. It was all
Yeah,
fluff.
I can't stand that shit. It's the amount of artifice on this artifice is
Palpable.
yeah, it kills it.
Well, they did erase
Um
it quickly because they immediately cut to Sarper counting grains of rice, and he says it's like a mental illness. Is that the
yeah,
truest thing he's ever said?
we did talk about this already, but
Well,
I'm
I'm
not
just
surprised
touching.
you hadn't.
We grazed on it. I just wanted to just. This is like he grazes on rice. That's all we did.
Yeah, I would have much rather he discussed that more than had this fake scene with his not niece, you know, I don't know, as a way of introducing the fact that they had an argument about having children. This is stupid. This is dumb. I'll tell you what, though, there are no lies in Bluffton, South Carolina, where we meet Josh, age 47. I'm going to call that a hard 47. Is that a Texas size 10-4, or are we in disagreement?
It's a Texas size 10-4. Diana.
I think he looks sweet. I mean, it is a little hard. It's definitely a hard 47, yeah. But he's sweet. I don't hate the guy.
Look, I don't hate him either. He made all of us a little bit nervous because I don't think I've ever seen eyes open to such a degree. At times, I wondered if he had eyelids. Because it looked like his eyes are so open, it looks like a creepy like diagram of a skeleton where they just show the eyeballs in the sockets. So it was a lot, but we do open with him building Legos and stuff. He has a real strong, like 40-year-old virgin vibe. I'm not saying the guy's a virgin, he's been
Yeah.
married, but he has that vibe of kind of like, because he wasn't just building the Legos, he was playing with the Legos and playing with the little men and everything. So, it's good.
I know what Diana's going to say.
Well, when Jack said little men, I was also was thinking about my favorite man, Lou Man.
The Lego woman that he meets looks exactly like, well, that his little Lego avatar meets. It looks exactly like Luann de Lesseps,
The
noted
Countess.
cabaret star and former Bravo celebrity who used to live in Jack's building.
Yes, this is true. This is true. I have walked the dogs with the Countess before.
And she made you pay for stuff?
No, I think she was trying to have sex with me, but wiggled my way out of that one.
I
No,
would. It's
yes.
funny because you basically have the same voice as she does. Like if you taught, you could do an impression of her just by speaking in your normal
Here's
voice.
my
So I wonder if
here's my Countess impression. Hey Jack, how you doing? I'm the Countess.
Can you say, "Don't be all uncool"?
Don't be all uncool.
yeah, that's it. You nailed it. But that's a narcissist dream, right? She wants to hear you call out her name in her own voice.
She's suing Lego now for copying her haircut and her styling.
She's also claiming credit for inventing Lego, but
It was the
she's
same
probably
night, yeah, that she claimed Skinny
stopped
Girl.
doing that.
Now, tell me, and look, you have you intimate with our friend Josh here, but he does suffer from misophonia,
Mm-hmm.
which is the fear, or not fear, the I don't know, would you call it the disgust? I don't want to
So
mislabel it here.
no, it is. So it's. I could be wrong, but if the person I know who actually has this is correct, it's actually a heritable condition that makes you extremely sensitive to sound to the point where it just triggers something in your brain and you can't stand it. Now, I don't know if that's a sign of being neurodivergent as well. I have no idea if there's a relationship there, but based on his hobbies and um his general demeanor, like, yeah, maybe there's some spectrumy stuff happening.
They do. I thought they did a pretty good job of approximating what it feels like for him, because we do see that he has sold his house and moved back in with his older parents, and we get a real like heap of. I mean, they didn't even put a trigger warning on here for people with misophonia, where we see his
No, it
parents.
would have been nice to them.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like crunching and slurping and dry toast buttering, and it was crazy. And that was really a setup so we could see Josh go get his earplugs, which I did wonder, if you're in that house, why don't you just have like earplugs in every room so you're never, especially in the dining room with these people?
Yeah, I mean,
There is
that felt
no
like
way that sorry.
I was just gonna say that felt like it was really for the show, but it was weird that we didn't hear the parents do anything but chew.
Well, I was going to say they look like country gentry to me. I know they live on a golf course, but like they seem a little more refined than chewing that noisily and eating that sloppily.
They also, while
Um,
being labeled as South Carolina, I'm quite sure the parents are either not from South Carolina originally, maybe they moved there later. Everyone has a sort of Midwestern twang to their voice in this family, not a
yeah,
Southern
that's
twang.
true. That is a good point. Um, so what else? It was a whirlwind romance for Josh and Lily, whose Chinese name I'm not going to attempt because I don't want to get that wrong. Um, they met on a language learning app where
Yes.
he was trying to learn Mandarin and she was trying to learn English, and eventually they hit it off and did Zoom dates, I guess, and then they got married in Las Vegas, and a month later she moved back to China, where she has what looks like some kind of beauty aesthetic empire. She's certainly got a nice house. We cut back
Hot
to
tubbin.
hot tubbing with Gerard, his brother. There's something I don't know. There's something about the way that they were sitting in this hot tub and having this conversation that made me think that water's cold, isn't it? Like
That's terrible.
that's cold water.
I thought you were going to bring up the vague homoerotic nature of the two brothers in the above ground swimming pool hot tub.
They're
Well,
brothers.
is it an above ground swimming
No,
pool or is
no,
it
I
not?
just I was saying that because it feels like there should be an above ground pool attached to this home.
Yeah, there probably is, but I don't know. It felt
Did we get
it
anything?
was
Sorry, go ahead.
it was a weirdly kind of uncomfortable surface level conversation, and I was kind of surprised by that. Um, what we got from that is that Josh can't work for at least 5 years in China. five
Well,
years.
it's for
So
5 years. He can then apply at 5 years for a 10-year resident visa. Essentially, what we're seeing is China is overwhelmed with people and they don't want average, regular people moving there to potentially take jobs from Chinese people who need the jobs themselves. So that was my interpretation.
which I totally understand. I
Yeah,
mean, if
absolutely.
you're having to do population control, you that can't be,
And from looking at her,
you
I mean,
know.
she can take care of them. She seems like she's got money, although she's kind of second guessing that and questioning her financial status a little bit, but I can't tell if that's like for his benefit to kind of just make sure he knows who's boss.
Yes. I'm confused about where she is financially because she used the word bankrupt, but she didn't mean it that way, and I'm not sure what she's actually trying to say because I don't think I can't think of what it would be. But what I want to highlight about this couple
Hmm.
is through them we have a returning character, different actor this time. It's the handheld translator. You
I
might
will.
remember from Devin and Jihoon's relationship.
The handheld translator seems to have come a long way since the Devon and Jihoon days, but we'll see how it holds up when it's on the fly and not connected to his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the fact that he was speaking into it and it came out accurate, that's Chekhov's gun right there. You know that thing is going to fuck up.
Well, I'm curious because what you were referring to with their conversation is it was confusing, and Josh didn't seem to know if she was saying like, "Oh man, I spent so much money, I'm like bankrupt," like like you say hyperbolically, or if she was like, "No, no, no, literally, I'm trying to tell you, I don't have any money left. I've spent all of it. I am literally bankrupt." Because she says, "I know what bankrupt means." That was the one thing she said, but we didn't get any further clarification on that. So uh, I don't know. Can you just quickly, because I know we're going to need to move on in a second, but would you mind kind of giving us a breakdown of what her house looks like? Because it's really cool, and she's devoting an entire like floor to Josh, basically.
Yeah, take us through her cribs episode.
Okay, so only a hetero man would like this house because there's absolutely nothing in it except for a TV.
I was talking about the space, but I'll take the hit.
There's no like, yes, she has some well, first of all, it's still undergoing renovations. It is a very large space. It didn't leave any kind of impression on me whatsoever because it doesn't look like she's living there right now, and I couldn't really get a feel for the size of the rooms or the layouts or anything like that. I it was very confusing to me. I need to sort of like see, I need more mise en scène. I need more setting, and I need to know the neighborhood and what's around it, and I didn't feel like we got any of that. At least not while I was sort of present and engaged.
I mean, maybe you missed the elevator in the house.
I do remember the elevator. I remember the glass elevator. That was very impressive.
And I would say, look, I'm not sure of the area she lives in, and we might check that out. I might fall down a rabbit hole looking at where she lives out of curiosity. But it had the warmth of an empty department store. It looked like it was
Yes.
missing escalators, and the kitchen was on the second floor landing. Really kind of precarious position for cooking. Um, so yes, it was empty, and I also wonder, with all of this bankruptcy speak, I have a feeling we may not see this home finished in any capacity.
I think you're right on the money there, as it were.
And
Um,
yeah, do you have anything else you want to say on these two?
I think she's a dark horse. I think she's way more deranged than we are being led to believe. There's something buried underneath there that is just desperate to come out.
We do see on the this season on that she reminds him constantly how much money she's spending, and also sort of appears to be controlling his life, both financially and locationally, if I may.
Yeah, I'm concerned that I don't know, she could take advantage, not obviously financially, but there's just something feels a little sinister and he seems so kind of simple. And he's got some kind of, understanding. I'm worried about this like listening to loud noises and how that's going to affect him.
He did say to, I think he said to his brother, or he told us in an ITM, what does she want with a guy like me to bring me over there and have to support me forever? So that is in his head somewhere. He has this concern. So I'm actually glad he has that concern, because it made me feel like, all right, maybe he's not going to sign his life away.
Yeah, I think this is one of the few times in the history of the show where I've gone, yeah, I think those fears are rational and you should listen to
Good
them
on you,
because that
Josh.
does sound strange. Um, Now, I think this is the last couple, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Let's close it out with Corona, age 30, and Inky, as it's pronounced, but it's spelled INGI, age 38. Same name as my dog.
Yeah, this caused
Um,
some laughter from Michelle. It brought her back to life in this episode because it sounded like Corona was dating her dog.
um, Corona's an interesting gal. She's currently based in Philadelphia. She's a nursing graduate, UPenn. I just want to say, like, could major serious kudos to her for making it through college and all of that when she had left home at 16. I mean,
Impressive.
yeah, to say the least, to not just like get the degree, but to graduate with honors all the way through, and then to earn a spot on at a at an Ivy League
Midwifery
university,
school.
midwifery school. Um, she wants to deliver 10,000 babies. Um,
Sorry,
Now, Diana,
it just reminded me of Kyle of Annie and Kyle. He wants to donate
oh God,
10,000 babies to the world. She wants to deliver each of Kyle's babies. That's how my brain read it, as we've been ODing on
no,
90
that's a
Day.
you know what? They might be very well suited to each other. Like that might work.
I like this new matchup. No, I was just gonna say that I really appreciated how they opened this scene with kind of like a little misdirect as we're meeting her. She's basically like twerking her ass for the camera, and you're like, oh, okay, is she like doing OnlyFans? Like, is she teaching dance lessons? Like, is she showing off all that kind of stuff? And then they're like, and then she's like, okay, so then when you're giving birth, you can push here. And you just see that she's now not actually just doing it for like sexy showing, but she's actually doing like a midwife lesson.
That
Michelle looks pained.
I'm so I have a friend who was very passionate about, and I don't want to get too deep into this because no one here has given birth yet, at least. Um, but two of us have vaginas, so I think we're qualified in some sense to speak on this. Anyway, I had a friend who have a friend who is very passionate about natural childbirth, and she had both births of her children extensively photographed, and it looked like the most unbearable torture that a person could ever choose to endure. And I get a little squeamish about stuff like this because I just think, I don't know. I have a totally different attitude about childbirth. I cannot understand unnecessary suffering. Like, I think, choose your own adventure, do what you want. But for me personally, if there's like, oh, you can have a baby with pain relief or you can not, I'm gonna go with the pain relief.
It's not like a badge of honor to you to be like, yep, pushed it out, it ripped everything open and hurt.
I think one of the worst sins of social media is that it's made parenting competitive, and
Mm.
particularly being a mom competitive. And it's like, yeah, I think it's really, even my best friend who had two C-sections was like, I'm a failure because I didn't push them out and destroy my pussy. Like, yeah.
No, I didn't miss this quote, did I? I just had to get up and take some Tylenol. Okay. There's a quote here, and I'm going to say it in the whitest way possible here. Okay. Corona? Yes. Corona
Yep.
mentions that underage, she was in a dancing, go-go dancing type place, and she
Yep.
was throwing that ass.
Yes, that's how she put herself through school.
Which, good for her, and I'm not kidding you. This is not a joke. I think the fact that she has combined her abilities with her hips into something as noble as helping women give birth, I think is kind of cool. That's where her throwing that assness went.
Yeah, it's transferable skills, throwing ass. Um Now we meet two of her clients, and but before we get to that, I want to say, Diana, you had the best observation about Corona and her resemblance to another treasured cast member. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and then I realized I was kind of hearing the voice of Tania or Tania from Sinjin and Tania,
Mm-hmm.
and I just felt this like very similar kind of. They're both kind of like very chill, like she's got the dreads and the gauges in her ears, and very like seeming like open and spiritual, and just like kind of Tania felt like she was like that as well. And um but really on the inside they're like control freak, not really able
Yep.
to relax, and you could just feel that same kind of energy, like really vivacious, really bubbly, really loud, and you're like, what happens when you go to the dark side?
I think we're going to find out. Um, Although one comment that she made, and this is later on in the episode, is she describes she is definitely the type of person who knows what at any given moment the correct nomenclature is. Like the fact that she calls what is it? Soft partnering. Um like I wouldn't have thought about that. And she's using it as an analog to like gentle parenting, or yeah, it is gentle parenting, isn't
Mhm.
it? And um again, make whatever decisions you want. It's your family. Probably not something I could fuck with, to be perfectly honest.
I have a question. I wonder, how do you feel? So we find out that Corona is, foregoing a spot at UPenn. Um, she has a spot in a midwifery program, one of the top ones in the country. This has like been her lifelong dream of what to do. And we find out that she's going to give that all up to move to Iceland for Inky. There's no ring on her finger. Like, it's not, we don't know how into it he is. We haven't really seen him yet. But how do you feel about her, making that kind of a decision for herself?
Well, I think it's completely insane to leave the country you're living in for any reason, especially some dumb boy.
That's a fair point, but to each their own. Everyone's got to follow their own path. But I have a question because I don't mind her wanting to go to Iceland. My issue is that this program's definitely 2 years. So the program's definitely 2 years. We hear that it is known as one of the top, I mean, it sounded like top three
It is
midwifery
known.
schools on the planet. And she does mention that Iceland is home to one midwifery school. And she doesn't, oh, and I think she's like waitlisted or it's too late or whatever, and she can't go this year.
Yeah, I think that's a stupid decision. I think there's something in her that doesn't want to do the midwifery program anymore, and it's not, that can't be what this is, because she's not talking about moving to Iceland for a husband or a fiance or a sure thing. It looks like from the teaser that he's not even aware that they're exclusive. I think they're on completely different planets. I think uh she's got this very restless kind of nonstop energy, which is great for somebody working in that field. And we meet one of her clients and a friend of hers from the nursing program, and I really appreciated that they were highlighting the fact that as their doula or birth coach, um, that they felt really comfortable with Corona, and that they felt that she could advocate for them in a way that they can't for themselves, because as a as a non-binary person giving birth, even as any kind of unconventional couple, like I've just heard nightmare stories, even from people who I thought would be immune to that sort of thing. Like there are no good. I've only heard among all my friends and family like one solidly nice birthing experience, and that was my niece. Outside of that, a lot of trauma.
Yeah, and
So
it's nice to see that Corona is so appreciated, especially in like the, LGBTQ IA community, and that she really like advocates for people like that. And she makes it a point to really show, she wears that she's an ally on her nursing uniform. And yeah, it just seems like maybe she is just ready for a new adventure, and it's less about him and more what else is going to come from it. And she's like been doing this a while and needs to, run with that restless energy, like you said.
she's insanely good in bed though. Like
Yes.
she can ride.
Well, she can throw that ass.
Yep. No, but she's like, that kind of energy is not wasted in the sack. Like that's gotten her pretty far,
In
I
the
would say.
heterosexual male community, she has what we affectionately refer to as crazy eyes. And crazy eyes usually translate into bedroom theatrics. Looking at both of you with your crazy eyes in here. Now,
well,
we're gonna fly with Corona now from Philadelphia to Dallas, Texas, and Michelle, can you describe the family? Because we might have all stars on our hands. Can you take it away here for a second?
this family deserves all, like, cancel every spinoff there is and just devote an entire uh an entire week's worth of scheduling to these incredible women.
The
We have
family
her
Corona.
Corona's mother, whose name I didn't write down. I'm really sorry, I didn't write down anybody's names. I'll only forget them anyway.
Except for
Uh,
Granny, of course.
yeah, well, she is incredible, and I have failed to document her accurately enough because they were coming so hard and fast. Like, these were blink and you miss it kind of
Well, I'll
comments,
tell
but
you, I just want to say why you missed it. You missed it because for the first time in a while, we have fun talking about this show, but this was the first time that I think all of us were taken by the show, and we kind of stopped taking notes for a second because it was actually so enjoyable to watch this family kind of shoot the shit that, we needed to sit back and enjoy it for a second. And you did get a couple of quotes down here.
yeah, I mean, so Corona's mom, who is uh who's hard of hearing,
Hmm.
she's got a little iPad with her that transcribes audio in real time, which that's incredible.
Very.
So suffice it to say that out of these exceptional women, the mom, the granny, and either the sister, maybe the cousin, the auntie, unclear, um, who the third female relative was of Corona's. They're not impressed with this plan.
I do
Uh,
feel like they asked accurate questions, like they weren't inappropriate questions.
they were brilliant questions.
They were hilarious, beyond hilarious. But like they do know Corona. They're like, but you know what? Like the one thing you cannot do is talk Corona out of anything. Like, through all their
Yep.
humor and comedy, like they know, like we're gonna say our piece, but we have no even like possible hope that she will take what we're saying. We're just gonna let her know, but we know she's gonna go do her.
And, some of the, oh, sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't like people.
I love you, Granny.
And she, on the name Inky, she just says, Inky, Stinky, Winky.
Winky.
And they do ask the important question because she is speaking about Iceland. And granted, she is getting ready to move to Reykjavik, the capital, so it is the largest city there. But they do ask an apropos question, which is how many black people are there in Iceland? To which Corona underestimates, but appropriately, and says 5.
Yeah, I think she was being a bit flippant there. Um,
I also like how the mom says, I mean, like one of her reasons is you don't know if he ain't no killer. Like, I mean, you don't know.
right?
Like he
Yeah.
could you have no idea if he's a killer. You spent like 20 days with him in person.
That's not nearly enough time to find out if someone's a killer.
How long do you need?
You've got to like track their habits for at least 40 days, you know?
And 40 nights.
Why not? And speaking of 40 nights, my mouth is dry. I need a snack, and it's time for us all to snuggle up into bed and watch some Schitt's Creek and fall asleep at a decent hour.
I agree. I think that's important. They're throwing things at us fast and furious. We have a heavy recording schedule this week.
Yes, we do, and we're so excited for it. So coming up, we've got for our Patreon weekly bonus episode, Blighty Day, sorry, patreon.com/Blighty Day. Blighty is spelled Blighty. For just $5 a month, you get all of our content ad-free plus a bonus episode. If you join the $10 tier, you get video. At the $15 tier, the Prince Louis tier, the most respected, definitely the best one of all of them, not only do you get video and all of the benefits from the lower tiers, you get to choose the bonus episode of the week. So also, if when we hit 100 patrons, we are going to do a naked show.
Fully nude.
So help us reach that. I'm not going to say how many tens of people we are away from that, but even if it's just for a month, give us
there.
that. We're getting there. Yeah. Help us reach our goal.
Did you mention the movie that we're covering on the Patreon this week?
No, we're covering the severely underrated 1992 rom-com, The Cutting Edge, starring Moira Kelly. Sorry, no, go ahead.
It's okay. Starring Moira Kelly, not Phoebe Cates, and D.B. Sweeney. Classic movie. Diana's excited to join us on that one. This is a movie we've all watched a lot of over the course of our lives. And I'm looking forward to it. And do we have anything else coming up new on the schedule this week, Michelle? Coming out, Starry. I got ahead of ourselves. I was referring to a show that's no, it's not coming out this week. Got ahead of myself because I can't wait for it.
It's Plathville season 6, y'all. You know who James looks like? James looks like if you melted a Plath. Like if you put a Plath in the microwave, that's what he looks like. It's all like...
Is he Barry's older son?
From Barry's first cult that failed. That's all that's left, this guy. Everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, theys and gays, we can't wait. Last season was almost too much to bear. It was far too depressing. I can't wait to get hurt again. So without further anything, because it's time to eat snacks and go to sleep, my name is Michelle, and I don't like people, except the people who like me.
My name's Jack, and you won't find me repairing an elevator and getting my fingers cut off and sewn back on and finishing my shift.
My name is Diana, and I'm just going to go do some counting right now.
We love you. That's it.
I love you. That's it. Bye.